Gracious Lord, look with favor upon us, your servants, as we do what is right and smart and good for our county. Guide us in our efforts to take care of our residents. Bless all who came here tonight to this meeting. Bring our armed forces safely home. Bless our country, our state, and beautiful Cass County. Amen.
Amen. Commissioner Barrera.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good afternoon, everybody. Roll call, please. Clerk.
Commissioner Leyland.
Present.
Commissioner Lawrence.
Present.
Commissioner Locke.
Here.
Chair Jones.
Here.
Commissioner Howie.
Present.
Commissioner Barrera.
Present.
Commissioner Marquetti.
Here.
And Commissioner Lee.
Here.
All right, everybody's here. Great day outside to be missing. Number 6, approval of the agenda. Commissioner Locke, please.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the agenda and a second. Do we have any discussion on this? Hearing none, all signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carried. All right, we have some
I'm sorry, did you need to skip public comment?
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not mean to skip. I'm sorry. I put a little knot next to it and moved on. So let's go back to public comments. I'm very sorry. Maybe the sunshine has clouded my judgment and the pending snow we're gonna have on Monday. So, there's anybody want public comment? The floor is yours. All right, sweet. No harm, no foul. Number 7, we have recognitions. Sheriff? The sun has got you too?
People do a little work here today.
Sorry, I'm sleeping.
If you could, Sheriff, I'd like to get a picture with them. We got a county present for them afterwards, and a picture, please.
So I appreciate you getting us, squeezing us into the agenda today to recognize these individuals for some great work they did here in our community. Deputy Nevins, who was supposed to be here, is not here, so, but I'm gonna introduce you to everybody else that's involved, but Deputy Nevins, I just found out wasn't gonna make it. That's why I was looking out in the hallway to make sure that he was going to be here. So we have Deputy Taryn Shields, Corey Smith. I've got a Corey Price, and I'm always getting mixed up, so Corey Smith. And then Deputy or Sergeant now, Jason Gerard, who was promoted to Sergeant since this incident occurred. So we're going to go through the story of what happened that day and the things that took place, and give you an idea of what these fine individuals did. On February 19th, 2023, at 0:29 hours, that's midnight 29 for those of you who aren't military, Deputy David Nevins, who's not here, and Deputy Jason Gerard stopped by the 911 center on their day off to visit with on-duty dispatchers. Not unusual for people to don't see each other on opposite sides to interact, so they stopped by to say hi. After having a short visit, the two were saying goodbye when a 911 call came in of a house fire at 607 Water Street in the village of Cassopolis, with people trapped in the house. Both deputies, while off duty, responded to the residents approximately 6 blocks from the 911 center. Deputy Nevins and Deputy Gerard arrived along with Cass Village Officer Corey Smith. As they arrived, they found the front door to the residence on fire and heavy smoke coming from the home. I just want to insert at this point, this is later found out to be an arson. It was somebody set the fire outside the house, so it's actually a criminal investigation going on by the Cassopolis Village Police and Fire Department. Deputy Nevins and Deputy Gerard at this time went to the rear of the home and found a small child trying to come out of the downstairs bedroom window crying. Deputy Nevins grabbed the child out of the window and handed her to Deputy Gerard. Inside the bedroom was the grandmother of the child, and that Deputy Nevins assisted in getting out of the window and handed her also to Deputy Gerard. I've got a picture I'm going to show you guys of this Deputy Gerard holding his child in
That will have him stuck in the window.
At this time, Deputy Gerard carried the child and assisted the grandmother to the front of the home, and Deputy Nevins at this time went into the house through the window and assisted the mother of the child out of the window. Also to be noted, the rear door to this house was blocked by debris, so there was no other exit to the house because the front door was on fire and the rear door was not accessible, so that's why we're having to go through windows here. The father of the family was walking around the house and trying to locate two dogs still inside. Deputy Nevins, who's also a canine officer, advised the father to exit the house and he would search for the dogs. At this time, Officer Smith and Deputy Shields were able to make entry into the house through the front door as the father had been pouring water onto the flames and knocked down enough to make entry. The three of them located a German Shepherd in a cage in the living room and carried the cage outside, and Officer Smith and Deputy Nevins went back inside the house and continued to search for the second dog. Deputy Nevins, along with Officer Smith, proceeded upstairs and located a pit bull in a bedroom that they brought downstairs and outside, where they turned it over to the homeowner. At this time, fire and medical were arriving on the scene, and the victims were the occupants of the house were being tended to by them. But during this entire time, while trying to treat the small child, the child was in Deputy Gerard's arms, refusing to let go and be treated. After convincing the child to go with her mother to be seen, medical and be seen by medical, the deputies cleared the scene. I'm going to hand these out to all of you, but this is Deputy Gerard with the two-year-old it was in his arms at the scene. So, sorry we don't have a PowerPoint for this, but I've got copies for people if they so choose. So I just wanted, it was my recommendation to honor these fine deputies for two deputies off duty going to the scene, and an officer and a deputy coming to the scene to assist in a fire situation that they're not equipped to all the time, but they did a great job in saving this family. All right.
So before I give them our county present, everybody knows here I was in the military. They call our military forces heroes, but out of the time I was in the military, I only spent 5 years in actual combat. These guys do it every day. They put their lives on the line every day for us. If I dial 911, I'd be honored if any of these guys come in here and come to save me, So our county, we love our law enforcement. I don't care what nobody says. Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. You know you got something for me. And I kind of served with some of these guys on this side of the badge. If you could give that to Nevins, I'd appreciate it.
Pose for a picture, Jeremiah.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
One more.
Oh.
Thanks, fellas. We appreciate your service.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Yeah, that's okay. I'll get it.
Here, if there's an extra one.
Oh, we need an extra one.
Dave.
Thank you.
Is there an extra? Oh, here, Brian, Commissioner.
I'm good. Pass it to the audience.
We'll put a little pause in here for now. That's cool. It's always good to recognize our law enforcement heroes.
Oh, I agree 100%.
Always. They don't get enough credit.
That's right. We don't.
Well, it's hard to move on after that.
Yeah.
I like to just A journalist go celebrate, but we have other business. All right, number 8, we have a presentation. We have a fiscal year 22 audit presentation from Yo and Yo. I don't know how, there he is. There he is. Can you hear us?
Just 1 second.
All right.
Okay, can you hear us now?
Let me just share my screen and I'll get started.
Yeah, go ahead. You have the floor.
One moment. Share. Okay, well, good evening. Thank you for having me. I truly appreciate you allowing me to do this remotely today. We had a couple of scheduling issues come up where Alan unfortunately had to catch a plane for a family issue in Florida, and I myself am in Saginaw for a training today, so I really appreciate that. It means a lot. My name is Mike Rolka. I'm a CPA and a certified government financial manager. I've been working on the audit of Cass County, I think about the past 5 years or so with Alan. Senior manager here at Yo and Yo. I've been with the firm for just about 12 years. So I'm pretty familiar with the county and pretty familiar with the workings of the county. Let me see if I can switch this to show the full screen here. There we go. So I have a brief presentation this evening to go over the results of the audit, a couple of recommendations, and then just some really high-level financial statement pieces just to share some of the good news, really. So I know it's going to be hard to follow up a presentation like that, and hopefully I don't put you all to sleep with an audit presentation, so I'll keep it brief. First, I'd like to talk about the audit opinion, and what that is that's really what you're hiring us for, is the opinion on the financial statements. What is the purpose of an audit? Well, the purpose, many people believe, is to find fraud. They think we're coming in, we're looking for where's the money hidden, who's taking the money, and that is truly a byproduct of an audit. They say less than 5% of fraud is detected by auditors. Most of it would be detected by somebody within the organization that is a whistleblower who has found this error and brought it to the appropriate people to further investigate. Our job as auditors is to issue an opinion on the financial statements based on our audit and our auditing procedures to determine whether those balances are materially correct. And in this case, our opinion is called an unmodified opinion. So that's the highest level of assurance you can get that your financial statements are materially correct. With that, there are some responsibilities that need to be known. What's management's responsibility and what are the auditor's responsibilities? So management's responsibility is the fair presentation of these financial statements in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles and maintaining internal controls. So the double checks that are in place to make sure people aren't stealing things and everything's being recorded correctly. The auditor's responsibility is to, do I still have you guys?
Yep.
Okay. The auditor's responsibility is to obtain reasonable assurance on our opinion on the financial statements. So it is not absolute assurance. I mean, think of the many thousands of transactions that happen during the course of the year. There's no way we could look at every single thing. So we do a risk-based approach to try to identify material errors. As a part of that, we evaluate policies, we look at significant estimates, and we look at the overall presentation of the financial statements. So to repeat one more time, the county has received an unmodified opinion, which if you were to equate that to a grade in school, that's an A+. So kudos to the county, congratulations on that. Here you'll see a 5-year presentation of the general fund's revenues, expenditures, and fund balances. You'll see each and every year, the blue bar there in revenues just about went up each and every year, except in 2021 it was down just a bit. And then the yellow bar, by and large, offset revenues and expenses most of those years, particularly this past year, the year ending September 30, 2022, revenues and expenses were nearly identical. And so the fund balance in that green bar was just about even compared to the prior year as well. But this is a good trend to have an idea of how has the county been doing financially over the past 5 years. Fund balance in the general fund is up to nearly $15 million, and that represents about 78% of annual expenses. So there's reserves that could cover about 78% of a complete year. Now, some of those reserves or fund balance, if you will, are restricted. I think it's about 9.6 million that is unrestricted. So that would bring that percentage down that I just spoke on, but you're in a good position financially. This is a view of just the revenues in governmental funds. So that includes your general fund and all other governmental funds. It's probably no surprise to anybody here. The biggest portion of revenues over the past 5 years has been property taxes. This year, it's up over $12 million, almost up to $13 million. So that's due to taxable value increases as well as recognition of additional deferred inflow of resources that were recorded last year that were required to be brought into revenue this year. Your next category, that's second highest, is intergovernmental revenues, which represents state and federal grants. Now, a lot of that being the ARPA funding, as an example. And then the other categories are much lesser, but all very consistent year over year. This is a very similar chart for the expenditures. General government is the primary purpose of the county and contains things like the treasurer and the clerk and finance and administrator's office, the courts, all of that type of stuff. Public safety there, of course, is the sheriff and other things, but you'll see that there's been an increase from over the past 5 years, particularly if you compare 2021 to 2022, looking at general government and public safety, and that's primarily the increase in salaries and benefits during the past year. Then there's two other categories that we're presenting here, one being health and welfare, and the other is transfers out to other funds and other expenses that are just lumped in there. And those are relatively minor compared to the general government expenditures and public safety expenditures, fairly consistent, however, year over year. As a part of our audit, we're required to provide what we call the governance letter. So this is required communications to the governing body. And so I'm going to go over the highlights of that letter right now. It should have been provided to all of you to read. I encourage everybody to read it thoroughly. What that letter does is it goes over the planned timing and scope of the audit. So, we've conducted the audit primarily in January and February, and the scope was to look over the financial statements. We did the single audit, which is the federal compliance audit as well. And then we also go over what are some of these new standards, what are some of the significant estimates, and what are some of the identified risks. So this year, there was a pretty significant standard that came out known as statement number 87 for leases, which we've been talking to you guys about it for the past several years. It's been out there for a while, but this was finally the year it had to be implemented. And what that one did was require substantially all leases to be put on the books. There's no longer this concept of operating lease where we just disclose how many or how much must be paid into the future for an agreement or a contract. Now we have to record this right to use intangible asset as well as a lease liability. So there's really very minimal net overall effect, but it does gross up assets and liabilities. Now, the county has very minimal leases, so this standard was much less important compared to some other governments out there. For example, the restated capital asset and lease liability was only $96,000, and that's relatively small considering the size of the county in total. We look at the significant estimates, sorry about that, to evaluate, are the assumptions going into those estimates appropriate? And we've discovered no management bias, no problems with the estimates. And some of those estimates are the useful lives of capital assets. So how long are the capital assets being depreciated over? We look at the inputs to the pension plan. So what are the mortality tables being used? What investment rate of return? And so on and so forth. The discount rate, for example. And then we specifically look at the county and identify potential risk areas. And that doesn't necessarily mean there is something wrong there. It means that there could be, maybe it's a little more risky than just your run-of-the-mill audit area. There are some upcoming standards that the county should be aware of that I know Jennifer is aware of, and we of course will work hand in hand with her to make sure they get implemented appropriately. The most important one coming up next year is GASB statement number 96. That is very similar to the lease standard we just implemented, but it's for software subscription arrangements. So anytime there's a software subscription that you're paying a monthly subscription and you don't actually own the license, those will now need to be recorded. And again, that one will be implemented for the year ended September 30, 2023. Excuse me. There's some other communications that we'd like to make you aware of. Is we did have one past audit adjustment related to the MERS pension plan. What MERS did was they send out quarterly statements of fiduciary net position, essentially letting all of their members know, all of their governmental units, I should say, know how much do they have set aside specifically to your pension plan. Well, they do that in February, and then their audit didn't come for several months later. And what happened was they had an adjustment to their alternative investments that didn't get followed up on and restated in that fiduciary net position that was previously provided. Now, it wasn't material overall to the financial statements, and especially not material to the net pension liability in total. So it was pushed through the current year, if you will, as a one-time adjustment. The last thing I'd like to communicate in this section is that we reported in our auditor's opinion an emphasis of a matter paragraph specifically calling out that new standard that was adopted for leases, just because what it does is restate some of the values in the footnotes. And so there's a footnote disclosure about it. Any of the footnotes that were restated are labeled as such, and we specifically call it out in our audit opinion. I mentioned earlier that we do what is called a single audit, and so that is required whenever a government spends more than $750,000 in a year of federal grants. Well, this year the county spent about $3.8 million, and that triggered one major program, which is the ARPA funds, or the state and local fiscal recovery funds. The total award is over $10 million. However, during fiscal 22, just about $2 million was expended. A couple of key things that should be noted is all of these funds need to be obligated by the end of 2024, calendar 2024 that is, and expended within 2 years after that. We had no federal award findings, meaning all of the test work we did and compliance verification, there were no issues with that. And the county is in complete compliance with the final rule and the way those funds are supposed to be spent. So because of that, we had no internal control deficiencies. And so I'm really happy to report that. Lastly, I'd like to go over another section of our governance letter, which we call management comments. And this is just some recommendations that we can provide to you that could improve internal controls, really strengthen those internal controls, help protect the county and its employees. One of those is to review manual journal entries. So throughout the year, the finance director is able to post journal entries without a second set of eyes on them. So we always suggest there's a second set of eyes on the manual journal entries. And then the other one would be that we're aware that the county has a conflict of interest policy, but we would suggest that annually the county obtains annual representations from all of its commissioners and key management employees to basically attest that either there are no conflicts of interest or just disclose which ones exist, so everything is transparent and there's never a question about it. With that, I'd like to extend a very heartfelt thank you to Matt and Jennifer and everybody involved with the audit and the entire team. We really appreciate doing this work for you, and again, I really appreciate you allowing me to do this over Zoom. I'll take any questions.
Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Roca, I have a couple of questions. However, you did pretty much answer one question that I had. This single audit, that's a separate audit from this because it's federal. Am I correct?
Correct. It's actually a couple separate reports, and it's specific to the federal funds that were spent during the year.
Okay.
There are some interrelated pieces that kind of go hand in hand with the financial statements. However, it is completely separate.
Okay, and so, next year we will likely, with the use of the ARPA money, we will likely have another single audit, correct?
Yeah, in fact, I don't anticipate a year really ever that you won't have a single audit. Even
Okay.
before the ARPA funds, the county has always had significant federal funding through Friend of the Court, for example. And there's some other lesser grants, if you will, but
Okay.
the Friend of the Court has pretty much always triggered a single audit, even before ARPA existed.
Okay, now, I don't want to take up all the time asking questions. Does anybody else have a question? Okay, I'll go on then. Our fund balance, what is our fund balance as a percentage of our expenditures? What is it, and what should it be?
So the fund balance as a percentage of expenditures, if you take, are we talking the general fund here? That's usually what I'm referring to.
Yes.
So if we're focusing on the general fund, it is 78%. However, that includes certain restricted fund balance. So I can do a quick calculation because I have the numbers up here. If I just look at unassigned fund balance, then we're looking at 48% fund balance. And so the MGFOA recommends at least 15 to 25%.
That's what I thought, okay.
That's the Michigan Government Finance Officers Association.
Okay, I have one more question.
Sure.
Do we have enough staff to make sure we have segregation of duties?
I believe you do. The manual journal entries was an area that could be tightened up, but I think now with the additional accounting staff, there's a way that you can have a second set of eyes on those journal entries in order to have segregation of duties.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right, Mr. Roca, thank you. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it very much. You all have a nice evening. I hope you get outside. It's beautiful weather.
Oh, yeah.
You too. You too.
All right. Good night now.
Good night.
All right, that's good. For our proposed consent agenda, we're going to do a little bit different because we don't want to minimize anybody because there's some important things inside here. So, Vice Chair Leyland, could you please take over?
I'm going to read them individually, then I'll call for the movement of vote. M49-23 is a motion to approve claims dated March 3rd, 2023, March 17th, 23, and March 31st of 23. Item B is motion 50-23 is motion to approve March 2nd, 2023 Board of Commissioner regular meeting minutes. Item C is motion 51-23, motion to approve replacement of jail lift station pump number 2. D is resolution 52-23, resolution in appreciation of animal control. E is resolution 53-22, resolution in appreciation of Michigan 911 telecommunicators. F is resolution 54-23, resolution recognizing National Crime Victims' Rights Week. G is motion 5523, motion to approve security awareness and training policy. And H is resolution 5623, resolution approving participation in settlements and approval of MSSA. I move the above listed items be voted on at one time by a roll call vote and be considered as a consent agenda by the Board of Commissioners.
Second.
I have a motion on the floor and a support. We have any further discussion other than I'd like to point out that D through G, well, no, D for our animal control and for our 911 and for the victims' rights is the reason that we read those out aloud, to not to minimize them in overall. Everybody understand that? You know, that's important, that's huge.
Yes.
We already talked about it before, but that's important. All right, so hearing no discussion, roll call, please.
Commissioner Leyland,
Yes.
Commissioner Lawrence,
Yes.
Commissioner Locke,
Yes.
Chair Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Howie,
Yes.
Commissioner Barrera,
Yes.
Commissioner Marquetti,
Yes.
and Commissioner Lee.
Yes.
All right. Number 11, county partners. Is this where we entered Caree for our VSO here,
She's
man?
gonna do the next one.
She's gonna do the next, okay.
Do the committee of the whole.
Oh, okay, okay. All right, so do we have any county partners here?
I don't see any.
No, the guy I always forget
Oh,
unless
here's Curry.
we're gonna do it during the committee of the whole?
Yeah, that was the plan.
Okay. No? Oh,
You want me?
no ma'am.
See you next Thursday.
You can stay.
All right.
No one takes you away.
I'm just as confused as she was. All right, so elected officials. I was gonna call on the sheriff, but I think he had to leave for business. Victor Fitz, our county prosecutor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to just use my time very briefly to express my appreciation to the commissioners for the resolution R5423 regarding Crime Victims' Rights Week. As many of you know that have served previously, I know a number of you have already been here, and some of the new commissioners will experience this on May 4th, or this room will be invaded by a bunch of 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th graders who will be receiving awards for their involvement in Crime Victim Rights Week and their efforts to, and their really important efforts to support our victims of crime. But this resolution, and I appreciate also Administrator Newton for bringing this idea forward and being kind enough to contact me about this. And I thought it was a great idea that in addition to that celebration on May 4th, to have this resolution, which again, I think puts it out there for on Front Street for, the entire community, in addition to what will happen May 4th, again, recognizing Victims' Rights Week. I'd also ask you just to watch your email. We'll send you out the calendar of events for the week of Victims' Rights Week. Finally, I'd just like to recognize two very important, integral people in that process. My two victim advocates are here who really are on the front lines when it comes to victims of murder, victims and their families, victims of serious assaults, home invasions, a variety of both felony and misdemeanor crimes, including domestic violence. Marie Anderson, if you could stand up for just a moment. Marie, who's been very faithful for a number of years in that service. And also new on board, but doing an excellent job as well, Kelly Locke. Kelly, if you stand up. And I don't know this, I've never asked, but Commissioner Locke, is there any relation there at all, or is that?
Oh, I would imagine so.
Okay. In Cass County, eventually, probably most people are related, so. But again, thank you so much, Commissioner, Chair Jones, and everyone. Appreciate this very much.
How long have you been on board? You mentioned that you were new,
July I started.
so it'll be a year this come July.
Yes, yeah.
All right.
So.
Yeah, well, thank you for what you all do. Thank you.
Yep, you bet.
All right, thanks, sir.
Yep, you bet, thank you.
All right. County Treasurer, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair.
The Michigan State Housing Development Authority recently awarded the Cass County Land Bank Authority a grant totaling $500,000 to aid our community through energy efficiency upgrades and home repairs. Midwest Energy Communications also pledged $10,000 towards this effort. The program's called My Hope. I feel like we were destined for it, right? It's called Michigan Housing Opportunities Promoting Energy Efficiency. Eligible assisted activities includes roofs, insulation, modification or replacement of heating and cooling systems, windows, water heaters, appliances, and more. More than 70% of the housing stock in Cass County were built before 1990. This program is going to focus on rehabbing old housing stock, assisting elderly residents to age in place, to also assist veterans in need of energy efficiency upgrade improvements, and making home repairs possible for residents on a fixed income. The competitive housing market has made rehabilitation of existing homes more important than ever. For this second round of funding, the City of Dowagiac also received $300,000, and between Cass County Land Bank, the City of Dowagiac, and the Village of Cass, we now have $1.1 million available for home improvements in Cass County. We want to get the word out to our local licensed contractors that homeowners will be reaching out to them to obtain quotes. And honestly, that's the bottleneck. So as you're in the community and you're speaking with contractors, especially our county contractors, they need to know that Cass County has 1.1 million, and there will be more because the Village of Cass can apply for more. We've got the opportunity to apply for more. But we need these contractors to turn around quotes, know that these are real dollars and that, that it's real work. I have put together a flyer that we can start handing out in the county. Please let me know if you need additional copies. As soon as we get the final grant award, I will present them to this board for approval. I would like to thank the following individuals for their help and support with this grant: Emily LeGros and Alexis O'Flynn from the Village of Cass, Ambrosia Nelden, the Land Bank board members, Monica McMichael, Jeremiah Jones, Emily LeGros, and Harry Schaefer, and those who provided letters of support for this program, which were Midwest Energy, Matt Newton, thank you, Porter Township, the Village of Marcellus, Wayne Township, and Carrie Kraus, our Director of Veterans Affairs.
Wonderful.
Does anybody have any questions?
No, just a big thank you. This
Yeah.
is great news.
It is,
Absolutely
it is. It's a win for the whole county, it really is. It is federal monies.
Spend it all.
So,
Another audit,
that means another single audit.
right?
And we are, I'm in talks with our finance director exactly what that means, because that changes a lot of things for our land bank. And so we will keep you updated on those things. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think so.
All right. Jeff Van Bell, our Drain Commissioner.
Oh, okay. I'll take a bunch of them.
Just a quick update on the Barron Lake project. Our well is in. It is not operational yet, but with COVID and supply chain, it was almost a year chasing these guys to get this well in, as it's a big production well. So anyway, our well is in. We'll be performing our aquifer performance test soon. So I was out there last night, met with the property owners. We've got some cleanups and things to do. So I just want to give you an update on that, because that's Board of Commissioners have to approve this. I'm just the delegated authority, so this is a little different than the drain world. So anyway.
Hey, before you leave, in my other job, I had recommended a guy to contact your office on Twin Lakes Road. And
I've been there.
We're just gonna leave that at that.
I've been there.
Yeah.
And it's a work in process.
Yeah, but I'm just thanking you for, because
Yeah.
I recommended you, and he's like, yeah, he got right back with me.
He briefly mentioned you, but he didn't act like he was pushing any buttons with you,
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah.
Chair, so
Yeah.
not a problem.
Yeah.
Not this Monday, but last Monday was a fun day after,
didn't go there
after
as-
all that rain. So.
I didn't go there as chair of the Board of Commissioner, though. Just
No,
put
no,
that
no.
out there.
And he did not present it that way at all. He was just
Yeah.
this is up in North Wayne Township,
Yeah.
and when the rain comes down like that, there are some water table issues in this county. There's just no denying it. And so, but I met with his wife. I talked to him on the phone, then I went up and met with his wife.
Yeah.
I've got a couple little things I'm working with the road commission we're gonna do to see if we
That's
can help
good.
them out.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you.
Yep.
Monica, I always usually keep you for last because you're like right here, so we're not gonna do that this time.
That's okay.
I would just like to thank Administrator Newton for allowing me to participate in the Professional Development Academy. I'm one of 4, I believe, participants in the county. I'm very happy that this is the last week. It's been pretty intense.
Yeah.
But I have learned a lot and very grateful for my time. And I will be glad to have 6 to 7 hours a week back of my life.
Well, they have a follow-up course now, too.
Oh, boy. So thank you very much.
All right. Judge Beeler, you have the floor.
Good evening, everybody. First of all, sounds like tonight's the night for thanks. So I just really wanted to, I can't echo Hope's presentation, but I hear in court, I've heard this week 3 times alone from somebody that's in jail and from 2 elderly persons about Hope making personal visits to them in their homes and in the jail. And that just gives me such a good feeling because our community has compassion and cares, and that's really important. So I just wanted to give her a little shout out because, I mean, people were going on in court, and it was even somebody was in court for something bad, and they still wanted to talk about how glad they were treated so well by the treasurer. So that's always nice when there's a positive out of a bad situation. The second shout out I wanted to do, since we're thanking people tonight, is a really big thanks to our maintenance team, because we had a situation recently where the Law and Courts building was evacuated, and the care and concern that were expressed by their team was just wonderful. They were really concerned about keeping our people safe and then ultimately saving us a bunch of money, because if those sprinklers would have gone off, it would have cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm sure way more than that because of all the damage to our computers and whatnot. They really did a nice job, and they're just so good about helping out. We recently got a vending machine at our building so that we can copy you guys and be like you and have a vending machine. And they also came out and helped measure, helped make sure we didn't have to take doors off and stuff, which would have messed some things up, they explained to us. But they're really good about just being available to make sure we don't do something to damage our facilities. So I just wanted to give them a shout out. In the courts, you might hear some people talking about the automatic expungement process, which I knew Victor was doing some press about that. And just so that you know, that's really making our courts busy, because like the state always does, they put a process in place for automatic expungement, but they didn't quite update all of our systems. So our systems are not up to date with that auto process, but crazily enough, there is tied to this automatic expungement process, you can be charged with a criminal misdemeanor if you don't do what the auto expungement is supposed to do. So my staff have to get this stuff done right away, because they could end up, being in trouble, which I tell them that's not going to happen, because we would fight that tooth and nail. But it just shows you how crazy it is when the state passes things. They don't put the system in place to actually deliver it. And then they're saying things like, oh, you could be charged with a misdemeanor if you reveal this information. So I just want to give a special shout out to Monica's crew in the circuit court file room, especially Emily Bogue, who's heading up our efforts with that, and then Lisa Withers in district court, because even though it's called automatic expungement, it's not automatic, because it requires us to run our system and then communicate with the state police and make sure that their records match our records. So nothing ever ends up being as automatic as they promised us. So I just wanted to give you a heads up about that, because you may hear people complaining about that, and we're doing the best we can as fast as we can, because like everything, it went into effect, like a few weeks ago, but they didn't even give us final information about it. They've been doing it all week long. I've been forwarding it to Monica. So, live and learn. So anyway, this is also our grant season for our problem-solving courts, so we're busy trying to look for as much money as we can possibly get to keep them going. So we're going to be in communication with administration about that. And that's our updates for the courts. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. The question I have, it may be for the prosecutor. During that interview, you said that it wasn't actually automatic, and we get that. But are there going to be any that you all fight against?
If I may.
Yes, please. I think that's a question for him, ma'am. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I want to put you on the spot.
As I said to the media, it's an extremely challenging thing for law enforcement, because what it does is every felony every felony except for a very limited category of assault of crime, some sex crimes in one other category, is automatically eligible to be expunged after 10 years. It doesn't matter what it is, and so instead of looking at maybe 10 or 20 per year, we now have to look at thousands, at least hundreds every year to determine whether or not we want to fight the expungement. And the burden no longer is on the defendant to prove that he should now, have his crime expunged. We not only have to prove them guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, but now we have the burden to show why it shouldn't be expunged. So, and it's a personnel thing. We put large, for instance, if we're looking at sex rings, CSCs, and so forth. Now all of a sudden we have to divert some of those very limited resources to look at hundreds of cases every year, whether or not we want to fight the expungement on it. So we'll be picking and choosing to certainly fight some of them, but I can assure you, sadly, that there will be many that get through the cracks that we feel should not be expunged. Because last thing I'll say is, remember, this doesn't mean necessarily that they've gone crime-free for 10 years. It means they haven't been caught in the last 10 years.
Thank you.
And just one final note on that, as far as how it ties into the court system. They created a system to do what they call automatic expungement, but they don't realize that all of our records are not separated necessarily by crime. Sometimes a case, somebody goes out on a crime spree and they commit, 5, 10 crimes. And so they say we have to make part of it private and keep the rest public so anybody can search it that wants to. Well, we don't have a way to sift through the data to do that. So again, we're waiting for instruction on that. But if you hear any complaints about that, that's what they're talking about. So more than you probably want to know, but we just wanted to
Thank you.
Good, thanks. Always good.
Okay. All right. Number 13, no unfinished business. Under new business, we have Alpha, the resolution R5723. It's a resolution endorsing International Dark Sky Awareness Week. I'd entertain a motion from the floor.
I move we.
I'll support.
There it is. That was very enthusiastic. Where's the dark sky guy at? Is he in it?
No,
Yeah.
We had a meeting at 4 o'clock.
All right.
He had some things he had to
I was
take care of.
hoping he'd see that enthusiasm.
Yes.
He was very excited seeing it on the agenda.
All right. All right, we have a motion on the floor and a support. Is there any discussion on this? We shouldn't be. All right, roll call, please.
Commissioner Lawrence,
Yes.
Commissioner Locke,
Yes.
Chair Jones.
Yes.
Commissioner Howie,
Yes.
Commissioner Barrera,
Yes.
Commissioner Marquetti,
Yes.
Commissioner Lee,
Yes.
and Commissioner Leyland.
Yes.
All right, resolution passes. Under Bravo, we have a motion 5823. It's a motion to accept our fiscal year 22 audit report as was presented earlier. I would entertain a motion.
I move that we accept.
I second.
There it is. More enthusiasm. I like it. All right, we have a motion and support on the floor. Do we have any discussion? It's a pretty informative briefing. Hearing none, all in favor for it, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, let's start over here this time for board member comments or announcements.
You're looking at me?
Yes, sir.
All right. I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but Frank Butts has officially retired as fire chief of Wayne Township Fire Department as of March 31st. Craig Yeager is our new fire chief. And if we can keep this in the room right now, we're planning on having a retirement banquet.
Well, we are kind of in public, so good luck with that.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah, cat's out of the bag now, Jim, thanks.
Go ahead, Frank.
Yeah. All right, Commissioner Locke, you have anything for us?
Not at this moment.
That's good, too. Commissioner Howie.
Earlier this week, I attended the Village of Cassopolis meeting, and during the meeting, they talked about the beach downtown, and there's a snack shack, and what the village is looking for, at least 10 16-year-olds that would be willing to work at the snack shack, and they're going to be paying $12.50 an hour.
What?
So, yep. So if you know of anybody, please have them contact the village. And then yesterday,
Yeah.
Jeremiah and I went to the Board of Health, and they talked about ticks.
And I immediately start itching with the heebie-jeebies.
I do have some information if anybody's interested in ticks in your health. And there's this ID card that will tell you about the different types of ticks and the safe way to get them off of you. So, that's it for now.
All right, and then mosquitoes and all the other viruses out there.
Nothing about mosquitoes on here.
Yeah. RJ, anything?
Nothing to report right now.
That's good. All, my favorite commissioner, Roseanne Marquetti.
Two things.
Yes, ma'am?
First of all, a few weeks ago, we passed a motion to donate, give $250,000 to Midwest Energy Cooperative for the Robin Grant, and they have applied for that grant. And I had someone, when the person found out that I had something to do with the county, they were real upset because they didn't have broadband, and they lived in Mason Township. So I gave Jennifer Gillum from MEC a call, and I called the woman too, and Jennifer said, oh yeah, that they have nothing, their whole block has nothing. So the reason why I'm bringing that up is I want to thank the rest of the board for voting for that, because it is good and it is important, and it's gonna happen. So, and then the second thing I want to say has to do with Hope's office, and that is, I was walking out a few nights ago after 5, and this gentleman came up. He was frantic. He needed to pay his taxes, and I said, I think it's closed, but he said, well, you take it. And I said, no, I'm not going to take it, but come on in, we'll see. And Barb was just walking out. She saw me, she saw him. I said, he needs to pay his taxes. She turned around, she's okay, went in the office, and he got to pay his taxes. So that's another example of how our treasurer's office is going above and beyond.
And it wasn't just her just taking the money, she literally had to unlock the vault, bring the money back out, turn the computers back on. It was quite a process.
It was a process, but he was so grateful, and he was, how can I say this? He was a new citizen in our country.
He had
So
been
that
lost for
was,
about an hour.
yeah. So,
He kept calling us.
yeah, so that was especially helpful.
Good
So, yeah.
representation.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Sam?
Not really a whole lot going on, just really appreciative of our county and all the different departments and all the work that they're doing. Road Commission has been on my side of town lately doing some of the tree work regarding that Gumwood Roundabout project. They've been able to do it pretty swiftly and keep that traffic going, even with the weather
Good to
that we
know.
had during that week. So just my hats off to those gentlemen that worked on that crew. The other thing is that I want to speak about, the sheriff allowed me to join on the active shooter training that they had during spring break at the Edwardsburg School. Just want to take a moment to say I appreciate that work. I serve on security at our church, and so that was just kind of something that allowed me to learn a little bit, learn a little more, but really just have that opportunity to see what our officers are willing to do for our children, and that's just something that's really speaks a lot to me as a parent. So
Absolutely.
just, you know, they do a lot of unrecognized work, unappreciated work, and I just want to say that, you know, thanks to the sheriff's department as well.
Yeah, we support our law enforcement, here and abroad. All right, Ryan?
We had a historic courthouse update meeting today. Not much movement, unfortunately. We're still waiting for SHPO to get done with our review so they can send the information back to USDA for the rest of the grant paperwork to see if they're gonna give us the 1.5 million or not. We'll have another brief update in a couple of weeks. Tentatively, if things go right and that review comes back fairly soon, we're looking at maybe mid-May for a kickoff start for construction. We were blessed with the lovely knowledge of hearing that construction costs, some of the material costs are going back up 5 to 6%, so that's not gonna work in our favor that well. And then outside of that, everybody make sure you keep your calendar open for the 26th from 3 to 6 at Mr. Thompson's parking lot over there so you can help me stack electronics and move tires around.
Whoa. All right.
Be there.
I will do.
I will not. Anything else from our board? Yes, sir.
I forgot one thing. I was at the City of Dowagiac council meeting, and they recognized Caleb Murphy.
Oh, yeah.
And I am very well pleased with our community and how we have brought up these young people, and he's going into professional football. And so I had an opportunity to meet him and to thank him, and they gave a resolution to him.
That's good.
And as I was thinking about that, I was thinking about, well, Chris Taylor, also the wrestling champ, came from Dowagiac. And also Andy Staten was in professional football for a little bit. He came from Dowagiac too. So I am proud to be living in Cass County and the influence that we have on our
Yes.
young people.
Did Joe Theismann?
I don't know.
Joe Theismann come from Dowagiac or something?
I don't know.
I thought Joe Theismann, he came some,
Did he?
I thought so. I could be wrong, but I thought he did.
These are just the ones that I know recently.
Yeah.
Most people have forgotten more about sports than I know. All right, hearing nothing else, this meeting is adjourned.